Sorry for the delay, everyone. There's been a lot of freak accidents with chargers, floods, lots of stuff going on, but we'll return now with episode 3 of the Troy reviews.
The rediscovered son. Prince of Troy.
What's going on, nomads, party people, and strangers everywhere across the internet? Welcome back to the Pyramid Inn. My name is V, you know, like the letter, and we're doing once again Troy Fall of the City weekly reviews. So, surprisingly enough, episode 3 will be the time where I will not talk about anything involving the Trojan War mythos or going too aggressively of my hatred against Paris, because this episode is actually a little bit more character driven of Hector, Andromache, Hector's wife, and Helen of all people. Which means Paris is now in the background, which means I don't have to suffer through all of his bullshit except for small little information bits about him. Oh, and also, if you guys want to have more information about the Trojan War aspects, as well as the whole story in its entirety from a shorter standpoint than what I could give you guys, I'll be linking in the description below some videos from Overly Sarcastic Productions so you guys can get all that information that you want for the entire scale of things, from Iphigenia, the Iliad, the Odyssey, even stuff like the Oresteia and the Aeneid, all so you guys can catch up on some stuff in a much more condensed manner than what I could give you guys. But let's get into the episode Siege. It's been a couple of months, if not maybe a year or so. It's kind of hard to tell because the Trojan War was super long. But supplies for the Trojans are dwindling, food is becoming scarce, and they're trying to make a small little riverway through the caverns to other places to get foods, men, and so forth and so on. But that's not important right now because we have to focus on what Hector wants to do in this episode, which is to find all these supplies for his wife by going to Sicilia. Sicilia being this neighboring city on the same island as Troy beyond the plains, going, I would say, either northwest or northeast depending on how they kind of navigated a little bit, because the gates, either they were going downward to the south part of the island where the coastline was, or they're going to the north side where the coastline was. My geology of Troy is very scarce at this moment in time, but the whole motivation for what Hector wanted to do was because his wife Andromache has been trying for seemingly their entire marriage for so long is to conceive a child. We'll get into more of that into a later video when I go through the full-blown series review of this. But for now, that's just the whole marker about Andromache's whole character motivation, is that she wants to be a mother. She's aggravated with how Troy's whole situation is causing so much stress on her body, and she's not able to produce a child even though she and Hector are trying non-stop, even though the midwives keep trying to help her by diagnosing everything that they could or could not do. So there's a lot of heavy stuff going on with Hector, which kind of implicates why he's getting more and more agitated with Paris's antics, because his life was kind of getting a little bit more stable before these actions happened. But from that whole entire aspect itself, Andromache actually learns a little bit more stuff about the family secrets by going to the former midwife of Samira, the person that helped deliver both Hector and Paris, aka Alexander, where from a lot of characters along with Samira, including a high priest by the name of Lithos, all warn everyone that comes into contact that Paris was a mistake to be born. Now, keep in mind, I will never say in real life that any child has any right to just be killed off no matter how they're born or conceived. Every life deserves to be born so that they can at least experience and later become something greater than what they have been born into by circumstance. No one life should suffer because of how they were made. That's how I personally feel. However, in the case of a mythology, I say Paris should have fucking died the moment he was conceived inside the womb. Just stab him right in the fucking belly. Pull a red wedding for all I fucking care. I hate Paris so goddamn much. But I digress. So, from this whole entire debacle, they're going to Sicilia to make the whole power play stuff. It's very interesting to read into from the novels that kind of chronicleize the mythology that may or may not have been real life events that happened with godly intervention, mind you. But here's the issue, though, with me trying to glare over all this stuff with the war aspect to go with the story aspect that's going on right now. None of this whole military aspect that's going on right now that Priam and Hecuba want Hector and Alexander to do is moot. Like, literally, I could just throw out all I've said right now and just keep on going about stuff involving how Helen of Sparta became Helen of Troy by giving away her portion of food, and then later, all of a sudden having the backhanded compliment of, I didn't mean to start this war. I'm not trying to make everything worse, and then all of a sudden saying, well, apparently your face and beauty started a war. Good day, sir. And it's like, bruh, she feels bad enough. Cut her some fucking slack. She didn't automatically wake up someday and was like, I want some man to shove his sword into my scabbard repetitively, and then all of a sudden I come up with the brilliant idea to listen to his ramblings, put myself into a chest, but make everyone else think that he kidnapped me, and then show up at his home, starting a huge war because I forgot to sign my divorce papers. That's exactly what I'm going to do with my life. Like, no one wakes up like that, and I fight anyone to say that they actually have that plan. Like, I'm gonna plan this out. I'm gonna make sure I wake up every day with this plan, you see? Go wake up, wait for my prince or princess to come and kidnap me from my marriage, and then I will, quite frankly and proudly, run the fuck away. No one has that thought. No one has that whole mentality. If you do, I'm sorry. I really do apologize, because that is a very disturbing mentality to have. If you don't, then congratulations. You're sane. Have a cookie outside the door right next to the stand where I have all my fucks to give about your situation. So, with all that being the case as we wrap up the episode, we then have Achilles just wandering in and out of the plot thread because of a spy that Odysseus had in the storyline, which we will get into later. I'm not trying to gloss over everything, obviously. And then Odysseus has Achilles and this guy whose name I can never remember sneak into Troy to try and sneak Helen out of Troy. But Helen of Troy, I'm sorry, I meant to say that now. Helen of Troy is trying to convince Achilles to not take her away because she never loved Menelaus. As contrast to her mythological standpoint, where she did in fact love Menelaus, but was just confused because she was stuck in the shippers' war because of Aphrodite. Remind me again why no one actually tries to kill Aphrodite in any myths? Just saying. So, after convincing Achilles to leave her alone and then being spotted suspiciously by a servant of Priam and Hecuba, Paris and Hector arrive after a long, strenuous journey that kind of goes into, will Hector kill his foster brother? Will he let him live? Will he give a fuck anymore? Will he just let it die? And yet all the while you're just wondering to yourself, why did the gods do this? Were they bored? Were they waiting for TV to be invented? Were they waiting for themselves to be even more famous than what they are now? We will never truly know. But what we do know is that this is actually one of the best episodes for myself entirely to just watch through, study, and actually made me not hate Paris as much, which is a giant accomplishment upon many different fields. But let's see if episode 4 next week will compare just as fantastically. So see you all next week for some more fun with Troy. Shall I? Do I have to? Is it still an obligation? Wait, I did sign that contract. Fuck.